Always hung out with the girls. Always hung out with the girls. Always hung out with the girls they accepted me.
And we're live. Hi, I'm Ozma In The Dark, still super white, still utilizing she/they pronouns for the purpose of some sort of world domination. I'm not quite sure why or what the other aspects of the end goal are, but yeah, sitting here with blindingly white background with posters on it. I am here with Christy. How are you, Christy?
I'm doing well. I've just been puzzling out who had white privilege in Nazi Germany. It's a mystery to me. I've still got the she/her privilege, I suppose. The she/her trans privilege, because we're so powerful. And yeah, I'm coming off sick leave here. Hopefully everything's settled down. In my and stuff, if anybody cares. Well, yeah, I'm doing fine. Sorry, I started to say something and I completely lost it.
It's okay. Perfect. How are you?
I'm doing fine, still using the he/him pronouns and looking to find a place in the new trans world order.
And Leo, our wonderful guest tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I just made some really, really exciting mac and cheese. Had a good day at the beach. It was a good time. So using they, he pronouns, preference on they. Don't get offended by he, because I live in small town America, and sometimes I find that there's a lot of good people who really don't understand yet. So I only really get pissed off if people are assholes about it. So if you call me she intentional, like a local pastor around here likes to do, we're going to have some words. But otherwise, I assume good intention and use it as a chance to explain to people that they can be a singular pronoun, as it has been for quite a long time.
Yes. All of that. I'm well aware of the aggressive uses of ma'am and sir, which some people use.
Yes.
So tonight, we're talking about safe places to come out and or explore your identity, because with everything that's going on, I mean, this would have been the topic anyway earlier, but now it feels more important because everything going on, like all the anti-LGBTQ stuff, like all the slow stripping away of rights as we move towards an apocalypse.
Basically. At this point, I just want to say there's a chance that I need to use the phrase, it can't come soon enough if these folks keep it up. So
Yeah, really.
I just... So much to say about that, but like, what's everyone's first thoughts about, just like a short initial thoughts about how to, or what sorts of places are safe for self-exploration? I was gonna say how to find
And be
them,
sure
but
and
that
wash
gets
your
into a
hands
lot more
afterwards.
complicated stuff.
I was going to say self-exploration is something I learned to do at 13.
Yeah.
that
Introspection and self-exploration there.
yes. Well,
Okay.
because there's a lot of society that like tells you there's a specific way you should be, And I guess
Yeah, those wouldn't
what
be the right
sorts
kind of
of
places for that activity.
places can you think of, or what are your initial thoughts about places where that are less likely to do that? I guess I've been very bad at finding any place that has any amount of emotional safety for most of my life, so I know nothing about this. So this is just me asking at this point.
I think there's a deeply human like need for community and connection, right? Like if you look at things like Maslow's hierarchy of need, which is a psychological sort of like it's like an old school infograph, right? It's a triangle, and on the bottom of that triangle, at the foundation is fundamental needs of humans like food and shelter and safety. And as you move up the top, up to the top, you get to sort of community building and self-actualization. So I think the safest place to come out is in a safe community. Now the problem is that there are places that should create safe community and have safe relationships that don't. And there are places that say they are, but they're not. And then there are places that you wouldn't expect to be, but they are. And so I think that's the thing that you have to look at an underlying basis at, is where can I find healthy community? And a lot of times, I think sometimes that can be online. I think that can be a really powerful space for queer people, is in, queer Discord chats and queer live broadcasts and stuff like that. And sometimes if you get lucky, then you'll find people that are in your like IRL existence.
In general, just for the record, so so audience and Leo knows, I came out to friends on Facebook and in public, playing a local music festival. So I came out on stage and then proceeded to do a set which included some songs that I had changed lyrics to not come out in them. Yeah, so I did everything wrong, but I came out. So
you used a lot of moderation.
Yeah, I used a lot of moderation. I just jumped. I was there. Here we go. No going back now. And I don't want to go back, but I was 53 years old, for God's sakes. I waited quite a long time.
Just seems like so much more work. Look at you, Supreme Court.
I think you mean extreme court.
I've got very little in the way of personal experience on this. All I do my experience on it is on the other end, just offering a non-judgment zone, a personal non-judge. I don't make judgments on people on those things. That's all. I mean.
Oh, okay. So there's a big space. So I didn't know if you got cut off there.
Yeah. I kind of trailed off, I guess. Just seems to me it's kind of I just don't offer judgments on those things for people. It's pretty bland.
Yeah, and that does genuinely help a lot. And I know I said I didn't have much in terms of safe space until recently, and that's kind of the case. I've been perpetually in limbo for a long period of time, where I'm out but not in a safe place to truly be myself, was kind of my experience, where they're like, so I had an emotionally abusive friend group, so that was a lot of, oh, we accept you, but we'll make fun of you anytime you wear the wrong thing. And what the wrong thing is changes day by day.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, and then my dad took a while to understand trans stuff, and a lot of autism and ADHD and the insurmountable pressure of transitioning when the diagnosis required was still gender identity disorder with at least months going full time.
Yeah, I had the living as 6 months for insurance purposes.
Yeah, and yeah, it's bad. It was just bad.
Yeah.
I did not know where to find. But I mean, yes, I internet. This is one of the places where internet has actually helped to some degree. And I guess that does bring us on to the next part. How do you find safe places? Because with a lot of aspects of organizing, it's scary. And especially finding people in your area. Like the only thing I know of is I guess you can search Twitter political opinions based off of location, and you can find potentially area who are more likely to accept you. But that's my only thoughts on how to find a safe place. I don't know about any of you. Whoever wants to can chime in.
For me, as a person who is like type A and pretty gregarious in general, I moved around a lot when I was a kid, so I got used to meeting new people all the time. Also, my number one strengths, literally as ranked by the Clifton Strengths Finder, is communication. And so for me, I have a pretty unique opportunity to exist in the world, and in particular in small town America. So I live in a town that's less than 13,000 people, and we just had a protest yesterday with almost 200 people for a pro-choice protest where we did not comply with police, and we intentionally engaged in disruptive behavior for a purpose in small town America. And I do stuff like this intentionally because I feel like my skill set has made me have a thick enough skin and a loud enough voice to be able to kind of be here in rural America. Like, it's safe here, you know what I mean? And so I, from the sort of flip side of that, try to just be as aggressively queer as possible at all times. I own a salon, and which lends itself to being able to help people sort of self-actualize in their, true presentation and gender identity. And so for me, I know what it's like living in small town America, and I've tried to use the skill set I have to create a very visible, safe space. In the process of doing that, I would share some words of encouragement with folks who might be coming from that position, because according to the LGBTQ rural map, which is a compilation of large, widespread scientific studies, and they aggregate data to find out stuff about LGBTQ communities that's not actually counted in the studies, But according to the LGBTQ rural map, there's between 2.8 and 3.9 million queer people in rural America. So if there are that many queer people in rural America, that just logically speaking, you have even more as the population rises. And so we're never truly alone. Sometimes I think what we have is connectivity issues. So for me, the way that I've found safe space is by just being aggressively queer. As someone who is red male right now, it gave me a level of privilege that I could be a little bit more aggressively queer, because 9 times out of 10 people will assume I'm gay, not trans. So I just decided to be aggressively queer. And the coolest thing has happened from that. I've been able to help draw other people out from the woodwork. And so I think that it's really important that people who have the skill sets that can do that, it's something we can do for our trans community to be visible. And it might not be comfortable, and it might be lonely, and it might get you assaulted or a brick thrown through your window or whatever. Like, those things happen to me. But I have enough stability and safety to be aggressively queer. And it's insane. We had almost last year at our Pride weekend, we had 750 people here in rural America. This year we did just a picnic and we still had over 500. So I think that part of finding a community is like being around someone who's visible. And if you can't find someone who's visible, being that visibility.
There's about 2 million people in the 4 cities and 4 townships that make up where I am. I'm in Buffalo, so.
Oh, okay.
I'm not
right near me.
Oh, okay. We'll discuss that later. I know you didn't say where you live, so. So I didn't want to ask on camera there, but yeah, I'm in Buffalo, and so the there is a huge queer community here. Part of it has to do with the Queer Underground Railroad, which is a thing. And, we have a statue of General Pulaski downtown, which is also a very queer thing that most people don't know. That's where the trans protests are here.
Okay.
And if you're going to come out someplace, this is a good place to do it. But just by accident, I just started accumulating trans people around me. I started being more and more open to being invited to their spaces. And so I wasn't terribly worried coming out. Yeah. Plus the thing when my kid came out first and I was dating a trans woman, and my old music partner came out trans, and my current music partner started off trans. So yeah, I just accumulated. Yeah, there's a big trans music community here, especially. There is one person, the funny part is there's the we can always tell crowd. I sometimes tell the story that I can't tell. I know what I'm looking for better than you do. And there's someone I've worked out with on and off for 30 years, and I didn't know she was trans until after I came out.
Yeah. Perfict. Slightly different. For you, because you are the cishet representative here. So, what's your thought process in terms of creating a safe place for marginalized groups in general, or especially LGBT people?
I don't really have a strategy. I just do it, and on a personal level, it's just a matter of I don't know, dropping clues that you don't make those judgments, and that as well as, I guess there's some things where you're kind of planting a sign where you are saying up front that that's not acceptable behavior, and that you don't think that that's okay. I mean, I'm just trying to think. In the rumpus room, it's covered loosely and lightly in the rules in the room. Is it's mentioned that marginalizing people is not acceptable behavior.
Have you ever said live what you do for a living? I mean, we know, but have you?
No.
I definitely know and didn't completely forget because I wasn't thinking.
Okay, the only reason I'm asking the question is because I was going to ask something about that. So I'm glad I asked.
I try not to make me part of the arguments that I present.
No, I get that.
I mean, that can be done rightly and wrongly. I think you do it the correct way. Perfect, because I know some people separate themselves too much and make everything a very deep philosophical thing divorced from reality. Which is not what you do.
Good.
I'm sorry. We're down. This is not a pick on. We're trying to be cognizant of your space, not trample on it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes that stuff does matter. The rules matter. Like, if I see a place and I see like no slurs, no targeted harassment, stuff like that, generally that looks like a safer place than some place that's even to some degree someplace that says just don't be a dick to everyone. Oh yeah, swearing's allowed. I forgot.
Oh,
yeah.
thank fucking God.
That wasn't that wasn't really a swear word.
I was
really trying to hold my swears in.
It's been enough time. It's been enough time. I just
try not to swear for the first 8 minutes or whatever it is YouTube uses.
Yeah. But I totally forgot about that, and I'm just like, oh yeah, important information. So I mean, I know, I because you mentioned like people throwing bricks in your having thrown bricks in your window. It's like, how do you take the first steps? Because the first steps are always the scariest.
It's true. For me, it was like coming out, like being aggressively queer was almost my own matter of survival. I have like my personality is uniquely like positioned to be who I am in the world. So I don't think that my story is in any way has to be prescriptive for anybody else's, right? So full disclosure there. But I came out when I was living in New York City. I went to college right outside New York City, and then I did my internship at a church at 125th and 5th in Harlem. Plot twist, you might not know this, but coming out as a lesbian during, your senior year of pastoral ministry college at a conservative Christian college is not necessarily the most crackerjack time to come out, but I did. And so I had this very beautiful like family within my church in Harlem that accepted me. I was pretty much like one of like 3 white people in my church. It was heavily Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Hispanic community, and they were amazing to me, loving and accepting to me. But I had to move back, right? I had to move back to small town America because of finances, right? And I was terrified, honestly. And I was like, there's going to be nobody like me here. And then I remember very distinctly, I was at Family Video and the cashier was like just visibly, she's definitely a lesbian. And at that point I hadn't transitioned. So I was still using, she, her pronouns and presenting as a female, albeit super, super masc and butch. But I remember thinking, oh my God, there's another lesbian here. And like just that was enough to inspire me. And then I met like 1 or 2 people, right? And we went to like a house party, just like a cookout, right, at a town right next to us. And that girl was there, the cashier from Family Video. And I was like, oh my God, more gay people. And so for me, like finding that, for me, that first step was just my friend Steph, that's her name, being herself. Right. And that was weird because she's in no way, like she's not engaged in LGBTQ advocacy particularly. She's just kind of like a private citizen who lives her life as openly gay, And but that first step for me was just realizing that I wasn't alone, and that in that I realized I could be myself, right? And it was a little terrifying at first. But the more I realized, the more I spoke out, the more people would out themselves to me. And then I started to realize, holy shit, there's actually quite a few of us here, you know? I live about an hour and a half from Buffalo in Olean, New York. And Buffalo is where I go to get my hormones, which is, they're being little bitches anyway and trying to not prescribe me, which is a whole nother issue. But I thought I had to go to Buffalo for a while, and then I was like, there are a lot of queer people here, a lot. And so for me, that first step was just deciding to be myself as publicly as possible. Which also, as a caveat, not everybody can do. I fully understand that not everybody can be aggressively queer and can be publicly out, because it's not always safe. But I have a certain amount of privilege in my life. I have a certain amount of stability in my life that afforded me the chance to do that. So please don't think that what I'm saying is that you have to do this. But what I'm saying is that's what, a combination of my personality and my life circumstances afforded me that chance.
I think I've met you in real life. That's why. I know you're from
It's quite possible.
But your face looked very familiar. I'm like, oh, that's probably just, yeah. That's
Christy, you know everybody.
Well, there is some privilege I have that I am well known here. That helps. One of the nice things was I got to talk to Laura Jane about it. So.
You know what? I actually, I don't know how widely this show is viewed, but recently in Buffalo, New York, we had a mass shooting, right? And it was all over national news, but it really, really affected those of us in Buffalo. And I would say arguably the surrounding areas, because I know it hit us pretty hard here too. But I have a really good friend who lives right in the same neighborhood where the Tops, that was the site of the shooting, was. His name's Alexander Wright, and he runs the African Heritage Co-op in Buffalo. He is doing great work. If anybody sees this and has a chance to support Alexander Wright and the African Heritage Co-op, I would highly encourage it. But he was on my podcast probably about a year and a half ago. And we had a conversation about privilege. He's a Black, cisgender, straight African-American male, right? Yeah. I'm a non-binary person of trans experience who was assigned female at birth. Other layers of privilege, we both are able-bodied, English as a first language speaker, all these sorts of things. But we had this conversation, and I was expecting to talk about his work at the African Heritage Co-op. But we ended up talking about privilege, and he talked about how he understands that he has a level of privilege, being male privilege. And so a lot of times when he's in a club, right, he'll be the fake boyfriend or the fake husband for his female friends that are there. And so it led us down this road of a conversation about privilege, about how privilege isn't necessarily innately bad, right? Privilege is not a commentary on a person. It's a commentary on the system that they come from and exist in. But privilege is bad if you hoard it, right? And so we talked about how you have to use the privileges that you have to help other people.
Question, is it African Heritage Food Co-op?
Yep.
Okay, just making sure so I can potentially put the link. I'm
that'd be awesome.
The link in chat, and then I'm going to edit the thing later.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Add the link to it. Yeah.
I don't know how much you know about neighborhoods in Buffalo, but that's also a very queer area. So
yeah.
So I somebody must have looked up both, and it was in his manifesto. So I suppose mass shooters can't always tell either. That was the darkest joke I have ever told.
Well, it's a dark time.
I actually have to apologize for that joke. It was a little darker than I cared to go.
Yeah, well, as long as we're in the dark place here for a moment, if I could ask, has anybody heard anything about after the 4th of July shooting in
it was Highland Park?
Yeah, Highland Park, just north of that. Thank you for the Highland Park, just north of Chicago. That's how I remember it. But it's after the incident in Uvalde, Texas, there was a backlash against the trans community because someone had started a rumor that it was trans related in some way.
Mhm.
And I
Yes.
I know that I have heard people arguing that it was trans related because he had worn a dress as a disguise. And I'm wondering if anything has happened that anybody knows about, because I've heard nothing about it on the news, but that doesn't mean nothing happened.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Okay.
one of the someone made a follow-up joke, Christy,
Mm.
which I will have to mention. JB, I don't know if I should mention full names always on the show unless I have
Quite all right.
permission, but what?
Quite all right not to. It's fine.
That joke's so dark it's about to get shot by the cops.
Oh fuck. That's
Darker still.
Yeah, it was too good not to mention. It's yeah.
okay. That was considerably darker. Thank you. I appreciate
Oh yeah, no, it was a follow-up. It was
God.
It's fine. I don't live I probably live like 10 or 15 miles away from the George Floyd shooting, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Lynching.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
The
right
next-
next to Minneapolis, so
Yeah, that's. Well, this is actually a fairly low crime area. And that's because there are so many queer people. That's why.
well, I was gonna ask if there were less police.
No, there, yeah, there's a bit of a problem with the police here.
The Buffalo police are highly problematic. They like to smash old gentlemen's heads into the ground and then say he tripped.
Yeah, that we do. Speaking of someone who's well known, that yeah, there was a lot of backlash because he was well known and well loved here, or
Yes.
is well known and well loved.
But in terms of safe places to come out, because community was brought up, and I guess the question is, in terms of religious spaces, what do you look for? I'm very as a Jewish atheist who was raised by the who was not raised by the rabbi, but who grew up with a lesbian rabbi, the first out lesbian rabbi here in Minnesota, Rabbi Offner. I don't. I have mixed feelings because I never know how much is completely safe, because not all LGBT places are, or not all places where there is someone who's LGBT is a place that's fully accepting, or at least it hasn't been that way in the past. So I don't know, thoughts with relation to religious place.
I have all of those thoughts. So pardon me if I'm speaking over anybody, but for those who might be watching that don't know, I was assigned female at birth and raised like in a conservative Christian family where my dad is a pastor, my family are missionaries, my grandparents are deacons, and my other grandpa was a pastor. Like, it's a thing. I went to college to be a pastor. And basically the church has been trying to yeet me ever since I came out. But here I am. I'm currently in year 16 of working towards ordination. If I was cisgendered and straight, I would have been ordained about 12 years ago. So it's getting a little repetitive at this point. But I kind of like to say that I am regrettably or stubbornly Christian. And then when people ask why, I ask if they've ever met any other fucking Christians, because it's not a great place to be, man. But I think that it's a really so I'm just saying it's not the best place to be. Have you ever met other Christians? Yeah, no, they're not there's not a lot of fun ones out there, but I feel like I have to be part of some sort of reclamation, or the shit's just going to keep getting like to be a bigger and bigger dumpster fire. So the thing about religion is that a lot of places will say like all are welcome, but what they mean is all are welcome, but you can't stay as you came. And I think that's absolute bullshit, speaking from just my tradition, because that's the only tradition I can speak from with longevity, right? As Christians like to say all are welcome. I like to call them the church of the sexy coffee bar, you know, the ones with the intelligent lights and the coffee bars and the fucking volleyball team and the co-ed league and all that bullshit. Those are the ones that are oftentimes the most judgmental, which is really freaking annoying, you know. They like to say all are welcome, you know, or come as you are, but the subtext or the parenthetical text is, but don't stay that way. And so when I encounter someone who is religious now, at this point, I just ask them, what's your stance on LGBTQ people? Because that we'll just cut right to the fucking chase there. You know what I mean? But I think it's important that I continue to say, you absolutely in no way have to be religious. You do not have to be religious. I'm not here to convert or preach to anybody. What I am here to say is that if you want to engage in a religious space, you have every right to. And just watch out for people who say all are welcome here, because almost all of those churches don't mean it, you know. You can really look, though, at the history of the church, look at the denomination they're a part of. Do they have any pro-LGBTQ initiatives? Are they connected to any anti-LGBTQ initiatives? You know, and kind of go at it from that perspective, like there are denominations who are positioned to be more open. But you still need to know where you're going, because it's 2022 and no one should go where they're tolerated. I really I settled for being tolerated in the beginning, and I'm fucking done with that. This is the season of like celebration or bust. So
yeah, the I know this is gonna sound weird, but 10 years ago or so, when the eclipse happened, where everybody went to watch it was by the Science Museum, and there's a park right near it, and so. But it's filled out, and people were just inviting people to, you know, come sit on their lawns and watch it, except for the church on the corner. My kid and I sat on the grass in the church on the corner, and the pastor came and chased us off, and they had a big old all are welcome sign.
Of course they did.
You know, so yeah. I know I'm just reiterating your point. I'm just doing it from a much different angle. I turned atheist while studying theology. So
listen, they say when you go to seminary or study theology, you either come out more convicted or a complete atheist. Like there's no fucking in between when you go to school. They say this outright at seminaries. It's one or the other, man. There's no middle ground after you study that shit.
Yep.
Yeah, although not. And the worst part is not all atheist communities are accepting, which is frustrating.
Yeah, because at that point, what are you basing your bigotry on? Like, it's just you being a little bitch. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even some moral mandate.
Yeah, Bill Maher.
I was watching. I'm actually in between arguing with people on Twitter. I've been watching Helen Joyce on the Skeptic YouTube channel. So talking to Michael Shermer, who was agreeing with her right until the point she got a little fanatical. But they're both atheists, so you know. So Michael Shermer is nominally anti-trans, and she's just what do you call it? Genocidally anti-trans.
It's wrong to persecute people over their religious beliefs, so I hate all religious people as a result. That is, you're not making good sense here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean that would expect you to that would be an expectation that they're utilizing logic, philosophical logic to make all their positions, but they've only utilized that position for certain aspects of religion, not been all the aspects done well. Like if
there's always going to be somebody standing right next to you, claiming to be on your side, who you are embarrassed by. It's just how life works.
That's incredibly accurate.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, like, you need to have. There is such a need, right, in certain parts of the atheist community, and how everything has an objective correctness or whatever. But if you're talking about from a philosophical perspective, and if you're talking about from harm reduction, churches do build community, and if they're done properly. Now, evangelical churches are basically cults trying to get as much money out of you as they can. But like churches, when used correctly, and synagogues and all sorts of religious institutions are, when used correctly, can be a common ground for how people are raised or whatever, and people don't need another reason to feel rejected by society with things. So on a harm reduction, negative utilitarian point of view, who cares? Ultimately, who cares if you're right, so long as you're not causing shit tons of harm?
Yeah,
I think that's one of my biggest reasons for staying in the field of religion, is that the synagogue, the masjid, the temple, the sanctuary, whatever your religious gathering place is that if you look at what religion does in society, and it fundamentally is a central gathering point for the genesis of community, right? And that's why I think the church will never fully go away. Do I think the church, especially the Christian church, in a lot of ways should probably just be burned to the ground and started again? Quite likely. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. I think that religious communities help foster community. That's why you see people drawn to it. It's the same. It's a fandom. It's the same reason people are all about, like an anime or something, this, that, or the other. They want to find common ground. And so what I'm trying to do is make religious spaces better and safer by sticking around. And ironically, some of the hate that I get the most in my current iteration of myself is from people who are atheists who have come out of evangelicalism. And the irony is they act in that they act out their evangelicalism, but from an atheist viewpoint. By that, I mean they are actively as persistent that I should not be engaged in the church, that I should not be talking about religion, that I should not be doing this, that, or the other. But it's the opposite side of the evangelical coin. The evangelicals were telling me I shouldn't be questioning my beliefs, and I shouldn't be going there, and I shouldn't be talking to that person. And so I get a lot of flip side, right? You know what I mean? The opposite side of the evangelical coin. But I think the institution is going to stick around, so we've got to make it better.
See, I think that's the important thing, especially for what we're talking about here on the show, is that gives you a specific opportunity to put out the flag, to say, this is a welcoming place. This is not going to be doing judgment on you. This is a community where you can come as you are and stay as you are.
I've also made a little bit of career of saying, don't fucking go there because they don't like you. Because I know theology and I speak Christian fluently, I have a very, very good bullshit detector. Like half of the yahoos running around my town telling people they're going to hell for being gay literally are career cops with no theological training. And so I firmly believe in attacking problems and not people, because I believe that healthy people attack problems and unhealthy people attack people, generally speaking. There are some people who probably could use some attacking, but I that's not my role. But so if a certain place or a certain person that is preaching harmful rhetoric continues, I do believe that that's about a problem. And I will absolutely say, if you're queer here, you should know you're subjugated. If you're Black here, you should know you're subjugated. You should know this is how your pastor really thinks about you. And I will expose bad theology at every junction.
Yes.
You may be surprised to hear that there is a not insignificant element within the atheist community that is not trans welcoming.
That is surprising.
It's pretty, like I said, Helen Joyce is on Michael Shermer's show.
Rationality.
They're not as rationality rules. You go, well, yeah, but that's not quite the same as some churches do it. Churches say, we have God on our side and you have to stop that. And
that's it. Churches are always wielding the power of God, always.
Well, we have reason on our side is the excuse for.
Yeah, that's rationality.
They say they know better their reason. They are essentially making themselves out to the God in that circumstance. You are always wrong, they are always right. It doesn't matter what facts you bring up or what logical reasoning you bring up. They will shout you down. And in terms of the because Leo, you brought up something about the effectively something about how certain members of the atheist community who are former evangelicals act out most of the evangelical things. And I think that's true with everything that's been conditioned to us through society.
For sure.
You have to be aware of it to try to and do your best to improve, because that conditioning, the racism conditioning is there, the sexism conditioning is there, the capitalism conditioning is there.
Oh my God. Yeah. And almost like 100% of people are conditioned to be ableist and don't even realize it, because that's such a burgeoning conversation. And that shit drives me probably some of the craziest things. That drives me some of the biggest levels of crazy ever is the ableism conditioning. Even like me saying the word crazy, I'm trying to.
I was gonna say, I was like, that's like the most frustrating aspect of things. I mean, that's the thing with words. Like sometimes you just have to just find the right word to express your feeling.
Yeah, I've been trying to go with bonkers. It doesn't seem to hit the same note for me, but I'm working on it, because I feel like it's important that, like even when you slip up, just call yourself out and keep it moving. It's fine. It's a teachable moment for everybody who's watching. But I feel like ableism is so incredibly latent in our culture that we haven't even begun to have that conversation. Like we still don't think women and people with uteruses have bodily autonomy, right? It was literally in recent memory that people couldn't be in interracial marriages. Like we're still having this conversation in 2022. We're so far from even being able to have an effective ableism conversation, and it's just so frustrating.
Well, I mean,
one of us on this show was born before the Civil Rights Act went into effect.
Yeah,
and
not calling anybody out, but.
No, Perfict is the oldest.
Yeah, seriously. In the state I'm in right now, I was alive when it was made legal for people of different races to get married.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is.
I was alive for that too. Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, I could go into, because a lot of the root problem is the same, because it's an ideal version of what it means to be human should be.
Mm-hmm.
That's where a lot of the ableism, the racism, and very like anti-education things. But we have a topic, probably, and we have not quite hit the
Reining us
1
back
hour
in.
mark. We have not quite hit the 1 hour mark when we can just hit full ramble. So,
Well, yeah.
one last thing to discuss a bit more fully would be, I guess, what are other things you can do? Because obviously people can't do anything. So people can't do everything. Not everyone can do every aspect of things. So, like, aside from speaking out, building a safe community, and I've already forgotten things mentioned. I'm terrible with my memory sometimes. Other things, just what are some things that people can do to genuinely make the area around them a little bit safer?
I think it starts with a good self-estimation of where you're at, what you have. I mean, there have been times in my life when I didn't have the capacity or the level of safety that I needed to be in the streets. And then there are times in my life where I can say, throw a brick through the window, we'll put another one up. You know what I mean? And you have to start with an honest self-estimation of where you are and where your process is at. One of the best things that someone told me ever was when I was coming out, I was cut off by my family. Like, I was disowned by my family for coming out. I have the relationship I want to have with my mom right now. She's dope. I love her. Doesn't understand trans stuff, but I want her in my life, and that's my decision to make. Dad not as much in the picture, but that's his own choice. But like, at the time I was coming out, I didn't have a stable job. I didn't have a stable place to stay. And so I couldn't be as visible as I want to be. Now I have a partner who supports me. We have a loving home with children who are supportive, and I have a surprising amount of community support for where I live, so I know that the tools I have in my toolbox are greater than the tools that I had before. And so no one should feel like you're not doing enough if you don't have the tools that you need to do the work. All you can ever do is your best in a given moment. And so maybe what you can do is, if you spot another queer person and you see them like this is something that I did. I saw this person who always wore a rainbow on their Walmart shirt, and they're really kind of a quiet and shy person. So, like, I intentionally wore some rainbow shit just repeatedly for a few weeks, and now we're friends. I did this with my cashier at Tim Hortons. I was like, I like your pin, right? And it's like the smallest little guy, but like, if that's what you can do, that's what you can do. You know what I mean? And then as you have the ability and wherewithal and safety and all of that, use the privilege and the tools that you have in your toolbox at that moment, understanding you might have a lot now, and going forward, they might fall off, because life isn't linear. But if you do what you can in the situation you have, that's the most empowering thing that you can do. And in turn, when you are empowered, you can actualize and you can help empower others. And one of my friends said to me, like, after I was cut off by my parents, I had 2 deans of student living and academics or something at my college, and my name was on the president's desk to be kicked out before I graduated. And these people at that time, Michelle and Mark, in the toolbox they had the ability to stick up for me, and then immediately give the resignation letters afterwards, after I got my transcript. So they used the tools. But Mark always said to me when I was coming out, because I felt like I couldn't do anything, he was like, you always have a choice. 9 times out of 10, it's not the choice you want, but you always have a choice, right? And you always have you have personhood no matter where you are. And so do what you can with what you have. And if what you can with what you have is just existing, that's enough. And if what you can with what you have is saying, I like your pin, that's enough. And if what you can with what you have is marching in the streets with a fucking megaphone, what you have is enough, you know? So estimate where you are and don't beat yourself up for you're not, and use the skills that you have in that present moment to kind of change the energy field where you are.
Yeah.
Anything to
I
add,
like that.
Christy?
That's why I said yeah.
I mean,
What else is
it's
there to
hard
say
to
to that?
add to that. That was that was wonderful.
That was actually great.
1 minute and 30 seconds. Okay. I have an idea. So like, comment on this afterwards. Subscribe. I was gonna say subscribe if you can. I'm pretty sure everyone who's watching this, if they haven't already subscribed, can subscribe.
Yeah.
But also disability stuff. So it's a minute early, but I don't care. You brought up ableism, and that's easy to care about, like some of the fundamental aspects, and it. Wait, no. I thought of something more important.
Okay. I mean, I can talk about ableism. I'm disabled and still
Yeah, I
have
can talk about ableism.
moderate
too,
career.
But
yeah.
I thought of something, which is, how do you counter the it's fine for me type mentality?
Tell me, I'd love to know.
Oh, you mean people who are saying it's not my house that's on fire?
Yeah, basically. Sorry, I'm still salty about hearing that from Cashier when I mentioned how pissed I was about the Roe v. Wade being overturned, and just like, well, you know, why essentially seemed to have an attitude like, oh, why are you pissed? Like, we're fine here. It's like, first off, no, we're not. Not in Minnesota. No,
Yeah.
there are 2 laws that got passed recently to try to limit abortion laws, or at the very least got, if not passed, got put up. And I realized that there's state Supreme Court laws that would probably shoot them down, but we are very much on the edge in Minnesota, and people are not fully safe. This is why it's important to build safe places, because you're not going to find them. They're not going to come from the government.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'd just point out strategically, I'd point out to her the dystopian world that's right around the corner, that is just one move away, where Wisconsin can say, guess what, we're not going to allow anyone with a uterus to leave the state until they prove they're not pregnant.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden she can end up locked into her state where her travel is now restricted. If she goes to these other states, she can't leave them until she proves she's not pregnant. And heaven forfend, if she's pregnant, she's going to have to stay until she delivers.
It's
That's
so
the work that they made for us. And they did this on the idea that it could not possibly rise to the level that we would need a federal standard. Okay, sorry I mean, my thing is, they're coming for you. I don't care how cishet you are, they're coming for you eventually. They're just going to be coming for everyone. It's not one thing, and they're being very clear on this.
I think that's the thing, is that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I'm quoting someone who's more famous than me. I don't remember who it is though. But that's just
it's Martin Luther King.
Oh, great. Junior or
no,
like
Junior. It's I have the quote. I do a news show on here. I do it on Tuesdays on my own personal Twitch channel, and then I upload it here. I try to upload it here on Wednesdays. Last week got delayed or whatever, and that's one of the things that can show up in the opening. It also shows up on the ending. That specific quote. That's why I know it.
Nailed it. But that's the thing, is that justice is total. And it is intersectional, because the second that it's acceptable to marginalize one person, it is way easier to marginalize the next person. And for me, that's where the issue of states' rights really just makes no sense to me. And I think that's really important with the conversation, RE abortion and stuff, is that like, clearly we can't be trusted to make decisions that value everybody. I'm looking at you, Mississippi, who didn't codify the 14th Amendment until 2013. You know what I mean? Like, these are things we cannot be trusted to. We cannot trust that the most base instincts of self-centeredness will become made law. And so if you are not standing up for your neighbor, first of all, you're a shit person. You're selfish as fuck. Second of all, you are doing nothing to guarantee that the privilege and the life that you enjoy is accessible to everybody. You have declared that you are more important by saying, well, it doesn't affect me. Good. I'm glad it doesn't affect you, Barbara. But what about somebody else? Do you actually have any sort of care or concern for another person? Like, I just don't understand this. Like, well, it's, like, I'm doing the right thing, everything fine. No, the house is on fucking fire right now. And it's on fire for a lot of people.
Sorry, when you said Barbara, and because of what Perfict said earlier, my brain immediately went to Night of the Living Dead. They're coming to get you, Barbara.
That's what I thought you were quoting, actually.
That's funny. No, I wish I was quick-witted enough to have done that.
But also, the other thing that's similar to that, the injustice quote, because there's so many quotes that say similar things. George Carlin brings it up, but I have a soft spot for Billy Bragg's version of the International. Freedom is merely privilege, ended unless enjoyed by one and all. And Billy Bragg has also done a lot of LGBTQ activism and stuff, and has continued to fight for stuff, which is why he's hated by TERFs. But that's another story. The story where TERF found my tweet about Billy Bragg, because I was like, oh, there's the people's flag is on the wall in my parents', because I was taking care of my parents' cat, so I was sleeping in my parents' bedroom, and the people's flag was there. It's like, oh, I guess I got to listen to Billy Bragg in the morning, and I got like a quote from like a TERF hating on Billy Bragg, and I'm just like, they didn't notice the trans stuff. they were so focused on hating on Billy Bragg. What did Billy Bragg do? I made sure I was following Billy Bragg, because it sounds...
Because basically TERF tried to adopt him, and he shot that shit down in no uncertain terms.
Okay. You can...
Which is better than Tom Morello has done.
Leo, you can go and promote yourself early. We'll continue on for a little bit longer, but
yeah. If anyone's interested in listening to me talk about shit more, I have a podcast called Conversations Official. The podcast is literally just designed from the perspective of having intersectional conversations about life, belief, and the intersection of the two. And I talk about, I fully acknowledge where I come from as a person, and then I bring on people who are different than me, not necessarily oppositional, but just different. I made an active commitment to be interfaith recently because I realized that just like one cannot be simply not racist, you have to be anti-racist. I realized that in America, particularly coming from a Christian background, I couldn't just be interfaith. I had to actively be interfaith. And so Conversations is my attempt to create intersectional dialogue that I think the world needs to hear. So you can check that out. You can find us at conversationsofficial.com, or you can look up Conversations Official on YouTube. You have to look up Conversations Official with Leo WT, because freaking Juice World has a video called Conversations Official.
and I believe I have the link at least to your YouTube down below, and possibly your podcast.
Yes. If you're into short form satire and wit, you can just look me up on TikTok. My name is Spiritually NB Leo WT. And I do, just 60 seconds of trolling haters and bigots and all sorts of stuff. That's kind of the breakdown there of that video. I actually got viral because some conservative evangelicals and the whole state of Alabama found my page. Sorry if you're from Alabama. But a whole bunch of people found my page and just started calling me awful names. So I got on the wrong side of TikTok first, but then Queer Talk found me, and they seem to enjoy my queer sass coupled with, like religious and political takes. So I also run a clothing line called Heretic Clothing. Heretic is clothes for protests and for people who don't want to just believe what the institution tells you to believe. So that's me. That's who I am. That's what I do. But I would definitely encourage people to, if you remember nothing else that I said, please remember that when you begin to willfully disavow the humanity of someone else, you're actively also contributing to your own dehumanizing. We humans exist because we exist together. Humans are communal creatures. Even the most introverted of us need other people. And so if you really want to parse out why injustice matters, it's because every step of dehumanization is cumulative and universal. And we cannot let those around us be dehumanized. Even if they're our aggressors or enemies, we still have to realize that this is a human condition, and we are not able to fully enjoy freedom or justice unless it's enjoyed by all.
Yes.
And is it
All of that, I agree.
you can send me a link to the Heretic Clothing.
Yes.
I can put it up.
Awesome.
On the channel after this is done.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
It's a new venture of mine, so.
Yeah, and thank you for being on.
I do what I can. I really appreciate the chance to chat. Like I said, I'm all about intersectionality. That's what I do. And it's not because I'm perfect at it. It's because quite frequently I fail. But my whole point is that I'm trying to be active about it. Just like I have a real problem with letting the word crazy slip or the word lame slip. Like, I'm going to slip, and I'm going to slip publicly. I'm not doing this because I've achieved perfection. I'm doing it because I need to be better. And for me, I'm a verbal processor. So I do better by talking about it. I'm not trying to come down hard on anybody or say that I've achieved any measure of perfection, but I do believe that together we can work, maybe not towards perfect, but towards best,
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
everyone should work towards perfect.
I mean, I'm pretty close. It's hard, but I can't quite achieve perfection.
I mean, he's right here, so.
I can't quite achieve perfection because it wouldn't be fair for the rest of the world if I was like funny and pretty and smart and had a good hairline. No, the universe is like, fuck your hairline, Leo. Got to keep you humble.
I've got great hair, so I've got all those.
There we
You
go.
can't see me though. You do not want to see my hair right now. I do have great hair though.
Well, thank you so much, friends. I am going to try to honor family night here, but I appreciate the chance to chat, and I would look forward to chatting anytime in the future.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Very nice
It was
talking
wonderful to have you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
So, a local.
Okay, so disability advocacy. So, like, it's BS, the idea that there's an ideal version of what it means to be human, right?
Yes.
I'd have to say yes. I mean, it's not logically impossible, but
Well, I mean, it's a presupposition.
it's not like a square circle. It's, you know, but
well, I mean, yeah, but like
if somebody
perfection.
has evidence of it, I'd be like, well, that would be interesting.
Well,
But
the problem
I
is perfection
claim
is a
it to be
social
interesting.
construct.
True.
Yeah.
And what it means to be an ideal human is layers
Well-
of social construct that oftentimes it
Right, but just like okay, morality is, there's a good likelihood it's a social construct, so we can use that as an example. The idea that
Yeah.
it's a social construct, but it might be just a fact of the universe. And if somebody had an idea, they go, "Look, it's a fact of the universe," and so on. And I go, "Oh, well, okay, that would be interesting if they could actually, you know, show that to be true." This is the philosophy side of me. When you go-
JB has mentioned Paddington is the only perfect movie. I have not seen that movie.
Paddington
so
too.
Oh, Paddington 2. Sorry, my bad. Paddington 2 is the only perfect movie.
I'm sorry, but it's still Rockula.
I mean, of those two movies, I have seen Rockula, so but that was partially because you have promoted it so hardcore, Christy.
It's awesome.
But like it would require there to be need to be a way to define aspects of ethics in an objective way, and that's very hard to do.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that if somebody came up with one and they actually felt that they could prove it, then that, you know, if they actually have proof.
I mean,
But the
yes.
mere claim of it is not nearly as interesting. And similarly, if somebody is saying that, you know, they have an idea of what a perfect human should be, that's pretty ho-hum. But if they actually think they have proof of what a perfect human should be, well, that could be interesting.
Well, and the problem is, the problem is, people seem to have an idea that there is one concept of what it means to be a perfect human, but like realistically, if you think about it, oftentimes it's like perfect human or what? Like the perfect human for working at a loud construction site might be a deaf person. The perfect human for
Well, even if you could, even if it was possible for the human mind to come up with an idealized human, you'd have as many idealized humans as you have people.
well, and the thing is, you'd have to be ideal for what? And the only way, see, here's the problem with the idea of what it means to be a perfect human, because you would have to know the ideal way that society should be for to have a ideal version of what it means to be human. It'd be an ideal for functioning in a specific way, or a number of specific ways, and then you get into, well, how do you know what the ideal way that humanity should be in the future without knowing all the variables? And then it starts to drive closer and closer into having having to essentially be all knowing.
Suddenly they look like Professor Gadget.
I think Catgirl Peach is the perfect driver for Mario Kart. So
I mean, you're not. I mean, the perfect driver for you, yeah.
yeah, but since it's for me, it's therefore objective for everyone. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, isn't that how we're supposed to play this game? I don't actually
Yes.
play, I don't actually play that, but life is life. So
yeah, and yeah, I mean that. God, life is scary.
yeah,
And being aware of how scary it is, the more aware of how scary it is, the scarier it is.
yes. And speaking of scary, I've got to go down and deal with Thai food.
Okay, so are you saying you also need to talk yourself out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
you know what? Let's just talk ourselves out, starting with you, Christy.
You can find me on Twitter at Christy L Abbey, CRISTY ABBEY, all one word, obviously, because Twitter. And you can find me on YouTube here and eventually back on my channel. I have something else coming for this channel and eventually something for my own channel. So, okay, bye. Talk to you later. Love y'all.
Yeah.
Peace.
Bye.
Oh, leave. Right.
Perfect. Where can people find you?
They can find me here or in the Rumpus Room or on the Fluid Voice Discord. Both those Discords.
Yes. And
those are my only haunts.
Yeah, you can find me in a few different places. Well, first off, next week, we should have Indigenous Heretic on, which they are they're always a good and insightful person to talk with. And how do we find you in the Rumpus Room? Is the question by Prim. Perfect. How do people
just
find
you just send an at.
Oh, yes, and so other than the Fluid Voice and
I know.
my YouTube channel, Ozma In The Dark, you can find me on Twitch on gonna be another Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday I'm dealing with groceries because I'm going to be taking care of my parents' cats again. I knew it, and the thing is, I knew this was going to be the case, so it's going to be a slight bit longer, the delay, until I start streaming the Romulan, my Romulan space engineer adventures on Twitch. Look, I joined Space Engineers Star Trek server, so I set up a bunch of Romulan stuff. I chose Romulus for my starting place. I set up a bunch of Romulan stuff. I green filters on my Twitch and a bunch of stuff, or not on my OBS or whatnot. And I was gonna have that start this week, but I would be doing that on Wednesdays. So this Monday, I will be continuing the torturous review on my YouTube channel, or the analysis of the Friends book by the ex-nun. Believe lesbianism is a choice. And then after that, on Twitch, I'll be streaming League of Legends and King's Quest 2. And then Tuesday will be Rainbow Shelter News. And I should have everything set up so that next week I should be able to do everything, and everything should be fine. Hopefully. And also, next Sunday, aside from Ditches Heretic B on this show, or I personally should be on, I'll be on Social Justice Alchemy next week, which they do an episode, they do hosting talk square thing. I can't words. You know, the squares.
The square things where people talk.
Yeah, the square things where people talk.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of people. Yeah, I'll be
panel
on that.
show is what they usually call.
Yes, panel show. Thank you. Yeah, sometimes my brain just rejects the concept of the English language. But like, yeah. So I'll be on Social Justice Alchemy on, what would that be? That usually runs like 1 to 3-ish on Sundays. 1 to 3-ish p.m. Eastern. And the Pacific on Social Justice Alchemy. You can find it, I think, just by typing in Social Justice Alchemy on the oh wait, 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern. 30. Okay, I can't remember times. Thank you. I am bad with times. I thank you, JB. Well, as things go, I'm clearly not tired now. Apparently, and let's just gonna start the outro again. For everyone, remember, do what you can, take care of yourself, and your voice matters, your life matters, and you matter. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Peace.
Bye.